just going to show you some bits and pieces you might be able to do while you're on the ground, maybe watching TV, so you're not slouching on the couch. If you find that when you're sitting on the ground, you round through the lower back because you've got tight hip flexors, just take a pillow or a little blanket like so and place it underneath your sitting bones so that the pubic bone is dropping down and the tailbone is slightly lifted, and your pelvis is on a very slight anterior tilt, and this will enable you to sit up tall. Imagine you have a string lifting you up out of the waist by pulling up towards the ceiling, and maybe even a string from the back of your head, here the ridge at the back of your head, pulling you up. So you create a nice long spine, you create space between the vertebra of the spine, and also this enables all of your corsetry, your deep stabilizing muscles, to switch on. So even though you're sitting and watching, if you're just sitting quietly like this, you might want to sit so everything's switching on and you can breathe nicely. Also, I just like to use this time to mobilize. So maybe taking the feet out as wide as they can, so you're stretching into the inner thigh muscles, the adductor muscles, and roll the ankles, taking your feet in one direction and then the other. And then mobilize your torso into the pelvis, so you're rolling through the ball and socket joints of your hips here and taking the hands out. This is a really nice way to keep the big muscles around those hip joints nice and mobilized, and keep the hip joints themselves lubricated. So circling in one direction and then the other, and then maybe taking a foot in, so take your left foot in, and then turn yourself over your bent knee, so we stretch the inner thigh muscles here. They run into your pelvic floor. So when we do lots of sitting, we get quite tight through the inner thighs as well as the outer thighs and the butt. And this can affect the function of the pelvic floor. So take your hand down towards your foot, turn the chest, and then just imagine you're pushing your shoulder against a wall here. So we're opening the chest area, opening these pectoral muscles, lengthen the arm up towards the ceiling, and then drop the hand over towards your toes. We want to draw the shoulder away from our ear, so we're not squeezing up like that. We've got lots of space between the ear and the shoulder. And breathing underneath the armpit into these intercostal muscles here between the ribs. And imagine that you're filling all the parts of your lungs, into the back of your lungs, right underneath the arms, and then into the front of the lungs here. Very nice. And then taking the hands down onto the ground, point the toes and either stretch in the other direction or maybe come right up onto your wrist and stretch the whole side of the body and mobilize the head, looking up and down. Really nice. You might want to take these hands just behind you and look at the ground, so you stretch quite deeply into these pectoral muscles here. Really nice. Pointing toes, pointing fingers, and then coming down. Take the feet both over to one side, so you're zigzagging your legs. And once again, this just helps to mobilize the hips and activate the gluteal muscles. So just working now on the right glute with your feet over to the right. Squeeze the glute and roll forward, and then release. So squeeze the glute and roll the hip forward and release. Keep the torso straight, so you're not kind of moving the body around. You're just using the glute to adduct, go forward, move forward with the pelvis. Just that side. Lovely. And then this time, keep rolled forward, keep your butt switched on, press down through the knee and come into an upper back twist. So it feels like you're rinsing your spine, looking over your shoulder. Take a couple of breaths here, and then as you inhale, pull up through the spine and come back into the center. And then do the same thing on the other side. So we're stretching out through those feet, pulling the toes back, nice active legs, creating a stretch here in those inner thigh muscles. Send the hand down towards your feet, stretch up with the other arm, drop the shoulder away from the ears, up and over, lateral stretch. Let the head be nice and relaxed here. Fantastic. Breathing underneath the armpit, and then taking those fingertips all the way up and over, point the toes, and maybe coming all the way into this mermaid stretch, or staying on the ground and just lengthening in the other direction. So if we're up here, maybe take the arm behind you, maybe look at the ground, so we get a deep stretch right from the chest muscles to those fingertips. Smooth breath in, let it all out, and come down and take the feet in that zigzag shape, and we're working on the left glute now. So squeezing the glute, roll the hip forward and release it. Squeeze and roll and release. So you're just isolating, and you want to see if you can contract as slowly and deliberately as you can in order to create that movement. Forward and back, and this time holding it there, press down into the knee here. Give yourself an upper back twist. The spine loves to be rinsed like so. Very nice, coming down and taking your feet out in front of you, just window wipe the knees from side to side, like that. Very good. And then you can come onto your back, you can still watch TV, you can come onto your back and do some core stuff while you're watching. So maybe a pillow under your head so you can still see. We want to start with the base of the rib cage parallel with the top of the pelvis, like that. So you're not flattening the lower belly into the ground. We're not doing that. Instead, we're switching on our corsetry, but we still have a little bit of a lumbar curve beneath us here. Make sure your head's not rocking back. So if you do need a pillow or just a little bit of height under your head, grabbing a towel or something like that. Great. So start off just breathing and letting the inhalation be received by your pelvic floor. So you feel really relaxed in the pelvic floor. And then as you exhale, it's like you're gathering the four corners of the pelvic floor inwards, like you're picking up a tissue and then drawing it upwards, right up through the cervix towards your tummy button. So we feel this switching on of all of our corsetry, but through that pelvic floor lift. And we inhale and we relax, and we exhale to draw in and up. And you know, just this action is really good for working those deep stabilizing corsetry muscles while you're doing something else. So why sit on the couch doing nothing when you can just be lying down on the ground and doing something? Wonderful. And once we sort of got that rhythm when we really can feel a relaxed pelvic floor, a relaxed lower belly, and then a connected and switched on corsetry, try taking your feet up off the ground, knees stay on top of hips. This is already quite strong on the core, so you're having to work it just by having your knees here. Toes come back, so if they flop, it'll hurt your lower back. Keep active through your feet as well. Start by switching on the outer thigh muscles, hands on the outside of your legs, or I like to come onto my fingers, it makes it easier on the shoulders. Press out with your knees and in with your hands, so that you start to feel all of the stabilizing muscles on the outside of your pelvis starting to switch on. And you'll also feel the deep transverse abdominal muscles, your corsetry muscles here, switching on and drawing in and slightly up towards your rib cage. So little pressy breaths, sippy breaths in and puffy breaths out. And then taking your hands into fists with the fingers facing inwards, take the back of the fists onto the inside of your knees, drop the shoulders away from the ears, and press inwards with your knees and outwards with your hands. So we do create a switching on sensation through the arms, which is fine. And now we are actually working on contracting those inner thigh muscles before we stretch them. So little puffy breaths up. And then take the hands so they're flat just above the knees. And what we're going to do is press the hands into knees and knees into hands, but you start off with that pelvic floor lift on the exhale. So as you exhale, pelvic floor drawing in and up, you start to increase the pressure, hands into knees, knees into hands. You're lifting pelvic floor. You start to feel the deep transverse abdominal muscles switching on. Fantastic. The harder you push, the harder you will find that you need to lift. Great. And then just drop down, toes on the ground, let your knees pop out to the side, so you stretch those inner thigh muscles, press the knees slightly out. And now I'm going to get you to use your pelvic floor lift and your corsetry switching on in order for the adductor muscles to switch on and your knees to come together. So we start off with the butterfly, knees out, and then as you exhale, you draw up through the pelvic floor, through to the corsetry, you let your knees come together. You inhale, you relax all the way through the pelvis into those knees. Exhaling, drawing everything in and up. Inhaling to release. And release. Good. And it just helps you to really feel that gathering in and the lifting up of the pelvic floor. zipping right up through the cervix, right into the tummy area, right in and up towards the rib cage, and then relax. And drawing in and out. Use the exhalation for the activation, the inhale to relax. So we're working with the diaphragm. As the diaphragm here presses the lung muscle, presses the breath out of your lungs, we also get this sort of vacuum effect through the organs and into the pelvic bowl and into the pelvic floor. So we exhale, we get this natural lift, we're just exaggerating it. Good. And then take the knees in, give your hips a nice big mobilizing circle by stirring your knees like so, and then take your toes together, your knees out, and once again just stretch the inner thighs and roll the ankles again. I want to keep those feet nice and mobile too, and then take your feet up towards the ceiling. So this is baby pose, and you either grab hold of your shins or maybe your ankles, or if you can reach, take your fingertips onto the inside of your feet, but then draw your shoulders down towards the ground. And if you find that your pelvis is lifting up, focus on pressing the back of the pelvis into the ground. So it might mean that you need to take your hands a bit higher on your legs in order to do that. So when we do this, we open the whole of the pelvis. We really relax those pelvic floor muscles. We relax the adductor muscles. We stretch the whole area. And you want to breathe softly so your lower belly is nice and relaxed. The pelvic floor is relaxed. And I quite like to rock from side to side. So just pull on one foot and then the other foot. Massages over the lower back. Massages from one side of the spine to the other. And then knees together. Give yourself a twist. So drop the knees to one side, arms out, looking over your opposite shoulder. Rinse the spine. Very good. And then you do that on the other side. Just rinse the spine. Fabulous. And coming back into the center. So you might then just relax, or you could start working on your bum muscles. So if you're going to be doing some bum work, we need to make sure knees are on top of heels. And then you press through your heels, you push the floor away with your heels in order to peel up and then come down. If you're doing this, just make sure you don't have too much height underneath your head, because otherwise you'll compress your neck. So pressing heels into ground, lifting up, massaging up and down your spine. It's lovely to just roll up and down the spine, feeling each vertebra rolling down onto the ground, massaging the lower back. Good. Now next time we come up, I'm going to shuffle feet together and press deeply down through the heels. So we're really switching on gluteal muscles. And then stick one foot out in front of you so the heel is pressing and the toes are pulling. And all the action is happening here on this glute. And then you want to breathe out and take your foot up towards the ceiling and then down. And then out and then down. So we're working all our core muscles here, working very strongly into this glute. And then the same thing on the other side. So pressing down, now my right heel, probably your left heel, pressing down, sticking the other foot out, and then same thing. Keep your bottom high if you can, so the glutes are working. Exhaling, exhaling, exhaling up. Very good. Roll down one vertebra at a time, very slowly. So you release the lower back, and then just swishing the knees from side to side. Great. And give yourself a stretch through your glutes now. So one ankle on top of the other knee, and then you draw the other knee in, so you've got both knees bent, and you very gently push your, so it's my right knee, you'll be your left knee probably, out to the side. So as we draw the knee out to the side, and I'm just holding onto my thigh here, we get a bit more of a twist and a stretch through the hip, and as we pull this knee in, the stretch goes right into the glutes here, right down into the bottom. So it's called a figure of four stretch. A really nice one to relieve the glutes after we've just been switching them on. So ankle on top of knee, draw the other foot upwards, bending both knees, and then you just very gently sort of push your thigh out in order to get into your hip a bit more, like so. Good, and then just massaging around in a circle, one direction and then the other. And you might come and rock and roll up your spine to come and sit. Wonderful. Thanks so much.